fund before we have a quick 10-minute break.
Happy to move.
So Aaron's moving, Phil's seconding, but we might have some questions. So Sam, is there anything new to the paper? We'll take it as read, but is there anything new? Nothing to add? No. Tim?
Yeah, in the information, it's got at the very last paragraph of staff assessment is the comment, however, the staff does not support salary, Is there a number of pre-existing organisations operating in the central city that offer connectivity, etc.? So I'm just wondering, how many other organisations in the central city, is this that new? Is this, because also their total cost is almost $160,000 to operate. It's a pretty big kind of operation. It's, you know.
Yeah. So the first part of your question, there's quite a few organisations. To name a few, you've got Te Puna Kōkiri, I know, do whānau auto navigators, St John of God, City Mission, even Ministry of Health have different navigating positions. So what we're talking about is really just reaching out to the community partners to say, hey, can you situate one of your navigators in this space, rather than applying or receiving grant funding to hire their own.
Okay. And your comment with regards to the cost of running this organisation, $160,000 to total cost?
The cost is for the proposed project of hiring staff. So currently it's run by volunteers. So this isn't the request budget isn't the cost of running the organisation necessarily. It's the cost of hiring staff and the additional costs associated to that. So do you understand what I mean? Yeah.
So do you know what the cost of this operation is? This
that they're applying for, or the current operation as it stands now?
Well, it's a requested budget. The total cost is $159,926. So you're saying that that's for the hiring of staff, etc.
Yeah, that's for this proposed project to hire, to actually have staff on the ground as social connectors. Yeah.
So as there are a number of other organisations doing this type of thing in the central city, what is the total cost of this organisation to operate?
Yeah, so the 150,000 is the total cost of Kairos. What they're applying for here is 40,000 for a position and 10. In terms of the breakdown of the total organisational cost, we have their annual accounts, but I don't know that off the top of my head. Sorry.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Just a quick question. Obviously, this is about building community and resilience through food rescue. When you talk about community, what community is this?
You'd be talking about your kind of at-risk, high-need community that.
So geographically, though.
It's centre east is where they're physically located.
So is there a reason why this didn't go to the community board?
Yes. So we actually did meet with their local community board staff when we met with Kairos about this application, but it was deemed that people from all across the city come into this space to receive the food and the social services that kind of tie in, and so it came through to Metropolitan based on the people that access the services.
Any further questions, Anne?
No.
Sorry, Mike.
And so do we have, because to me it sounds like it should be something that sits with the community board. You know, this is a reason why, you know, these larger community boards get a lot more money. So, do we have other instances around where we have something that geographically services one area that we're putting it across the Metropolitan Fund?
Yeah, it's really common for it to be a bit of a balancing act, where you might have a service that's specifically located, be it in the central city or in a board area, but that attracts people from around the city. It's very common, and there's often a bit of a debate about where it's best to fit.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anne.
Thanks. It's am I correct in reading that they
have recognised that there are other groups working in the area, and that they're going to be using the strengths of their administration as well, rather than recreating their own. Is that what I'm reading here?
That's what
Yeah.
we will be recommending to
Indeed,
them.
yeah.
to
Okay,
do.
right, that's good. And as a more general question, is there any way that we can get like almost a map of the different networks in the city that are actually providing this kind of support for people? So I would suggest that the people that take advantage of this are from all over the place, and they're just homeless, or not homeless, needing food. And so I'm wondering, as a city, it would be really useful to know where these different groups are operating, so that we could give that information out to, say, well, when we're discussing things like community safety and stuff like that. Is there an opportunity
we
for that to
know
happen?
we know all of the different food banks that operate around the city. The difference in this one being obviously it's cafe leftover food as opposed to donations from supermarkets. There's no registration, and it's only food for one day as opposed to a week or more. So it hits a slightly different market, but to answer your question, we definitely know where all the food banks operate from.
Great, it'd be good to get
Right,
that information.
Tim?
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, question?
Yeah, look, you just mentioned before, and it was following on from Anne's question about the administration. So are they are you encouraging them to use their administration to help others, or to link in with others already established strong administration
To link in with others.
with others?
We're suggesting this is a great project, what
Yep.
they do, and we're wanting to support it, but we're not encouraging them to employ staff, partly because that adds significant additional cost to an organisation. And there are many, and so we're saying working with others who already hire the social work type staff who have those connected relationships and can navigate people to services. But they applied for some wages costs and 10 grand administrative costs for their organisation. So let's support the admin to give them a boost so they can keep supporting their volunteers, of which they have 126. But saying let's not support the hiring of staff.
But could our support or our encouragement also go into them, say, being absorbed into one of the highly organised organisations to use what they're doing?
I think that might be beyond our scope with an organisation to say, right, subsume yourself into another group. That we don't have that level of influence with an independent, not-for-profit.
Cool, thank you.
That's great. Any further questions? No? So we've got a mover and a seconder already. Any debate? Tim?
Yeah, look, thank you. And it's a great project that they're doing, but we as a council just fund lots of different groups doing vaguely the same thing. And in the previous item, I mentioned about Enviro Schools, which was almost kind of got left out because it's been doing such a good job for so long, and then we get all these new initiatives actually doing pretty much the same thing, but they're new. And we end up being a council that almost funds organisations to expand, then we kind of have to fund them again and again with more and more. I'm not going to support this because I think that we as a city should be really looking and encouraging these organisations to work together and have one head doing a whole lot of things like an octopus rather than a whole lot of different things, because a lot of money at council and ratepayer money is spent on administration of a whole lot of organisations doing vaguely the same thing but with a slightly different attitude. So I think we're at a moment in time in our city when we've got to start focusing and asking others to focus as well. So I will not be supporting this.
Thank you, Anne.
I find myself in disagreement with my colleague, but not for a dissimilar reason that he's just spoken. Kairos is part of the free store movement, so it's established movement throughout New Zealand. And it's set up in Christchurch in 2018, and I only know this because I looked it up on the internet while we were discussing it. And the Free Store movement was founded in Wellington in 2010, so it's been around for a while. They're a non-profit charitable organisation run 100% by volunteers, and I actually think we need to give kudos to their suppliers. So All Press Espresso, Ballantyne's, Black and White Coffee Cartel, Catnap Cafe, Good Habit, Green Coffee and Eatery, Grizzly Baked Goods, Hello Sunday, Little Brews Espresso, Lux Espresso, Moustache Cookies, Raw Sugar Cafe, Southside Social, The Great Pastry Shop, Totally Gluten-Free Bakery, Under the Red Veranda, Underground Coffee and West End Stories. And these cafes give them the leftover food at the end of the day. So they're only open between 5 and 6:30 daily, and they have a barbecue on a Friday, I think, on a Friday. As I say, 100% volunteers. I actually agree with council staff, the recommendation to fund the admin. It's just soul destroying when you're a 100% voluntary organisation to get tied up with the admin. But I also agree to discourage the employment of staff. Once you get into the employment of staff, then you bring in health and safety, you bring in ACC obligations, you bring in all sorts of... There are so many different obligations that come with employment. I do note that they are on Grace Vineyard's site, and I assume that they're not paying the rental for the place. It looks as if there's been a supplier who has provided them with, they've got a friends page. So Richard Preston Homes has given them the fit out for their shipping container. Darren Paddock has done all of their designs and architectural work, and Grace Vineyard has given them a home. I just think they're doing all the right things, and I'd like us to support them.
Thank you. Pauline?
Yeah, look, I agree with what my colleague Leanne has just said too. Great example of collaboration, and that's what it's all about. But this actually ties into the climate smart change strategy that we've just signed off for consultation in our program 9 towards zero waste. Currently 157,000 tonnes of food waste per year across New Zealand is dumped. And I'd say most of this food would be waste if it wasn't collected by people like this doing this. And it demonstrates my point in the last debate that yes, there is a cost to climate change mitigation. There is a cost to managing our resources and greening our city. And this is just one example of a cost that we're willing to contribute to help this really good cause. So I'll be supporting it today.
Thank you. Anything further? Anne?
Right, yep, concur. I think we have to get better at actually networking and bringing these groups together so that we're not replicating costs that we keep replicating. So I'm really keen if we could get some kind of, as I said, some kind of city map where we can see what people are doing, who's working with who, and how we can actually help to make that work more smoothly. We have the city mission that we fund. We fund social workers in partnership with the city mission that do the job that they're describing here. So it makes sense for them to be connecting with that and actually using that service that's already there, that we actually do fund partly. And if there is a greater need, then we need to look again at how we can resource that. So it's about working smarter, and we have to have an understanding of what's happening over the entire city so that we can do that. So I would love if someone could get a map, or maybe through Smart View, be able to identify where places are so that we can give that information out to those who, agencies particularly, who would like to use them.
Thank you. No one further? Okay, I'll put that then. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Got that recorded? Yeah. Okay, so Tim against. I declare that carried, and we can take a quick break. Please be back here by 11:20, and we'll knock out the last couple of reports before the briefing.